Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 110. Zuyun. Xiao Kun, Lu Ying said warmly. What desires do you have that are yet unfulfilled? I brought you prey, Xiao Kun's rich, deep voice said. As long as you eat it, you can be the same as me, living forever, never dying. Why do you not accept the devil god's offering? Lu Ying replied quietly, under the power of the heart lamp, I have already recovered. If that is your only desire, then you can rest in peace now. Far from it. Xiao Kun's deep, rich voice said. Come with me. The scar on Xiao Kun's face drew one's gaze to it and stunned the heart. His eyes were already murky, and his face was gaunt, his skin pallid. Numerous strands of white hair at his temples drifted in the wind. When he opened his mouth, his canines were still dripping purple-black blood, and a hole had opened over his left chest. His heart that should have been there had already gone missing, and now all that could be seen were ashen white rib bones. To where? Lu Ying asked quietly. To the place that you promised me, Xiao Kun said. Where there are no nightmares and no burdens, and we will no longer need to, for the sake of the humans, bear the responsibility of dispelling the fuel of nightmares. Lu Ying replied, clearly and concisely, I won't go. Xiao Kun lowered his voice, suppressing a roar in his throat as he took a step forward, saying slowly, come with me. Lu Ying walked forward slowly, reaching out a finger and gently lifting Xiao Kun's chin, making him lift his head slightly. Xiao Shan immediately grew worried and wanted to follow him, but with a single gesture, Lu Ying stopped him, making him stay where he was. This is your obsession, Lu Ying said gently. The grey wolf that protects the bright day. My Xiao Kun, you bestowed your beating heart upon the humans, you bestowed the last of your Yao power on Xiao Shan. Yet as of today, you have offered up your flesh and blood to the devil god. Black flames suddenly burst up around Xiao Kun, and his body kept growing larger, turning into a huge devil wolf almost 5 jong tall. Lu Ying faced down that huge devil wolf who towered in front of him like a mountain, making his figure seem incredibly small in comparison, as if he was a single leaf in the midst of a torrential storm. However, at the top of his forehead, a pair of new antlers grew like vines, and the antlers glowed with the light of dreams. Lu Ying replied quietly, to me, you are the greatest god of this world. To steal you back from the clutches of the god of weapons, and send you to a peaceful rest, is my sole destiny. Lu Ying. Xiao Shan shouted. Lu Ying replied earnestly, Phoenix, take them away from here, leave this place to me. The white deer's form grew large, holding its ground against the grey wolf charging towards them. Two huge ancient beings began a massive, earth-shaking battle on the snowy plains. Chen Xing. Che Lufeng turned, but Chen Xing still had his eyes closed as he sent the heart lamp through Xiang Shu's entire body. The 5 jong tall grey wolf and white deer collided against each other on the snow, and the white deer braced its antlers against the grey wolf's stomach, pushing it backwards. Take all the humans away from here, the white deer shouted in Lu Ying's voice. Phoenix. Chongming raised his head to watch the scene unfold, yet he still did not move. Instead, he lowered his head again, his eyebrows furrowed deeply, observing Chen Xing and Xiang Shu. The huge wolf bit down on the white deer's nape, sending it flying out, before it let out a howl at the sky, racing forward. Yuduo rushed out of the snow, tossing the chain forward. It wrapped around the grey wolf's neck, but the grey wolf sent Yuduo flying with a single toss of its head. The battle of the huge beasts trampled all over the snowy ground, and the wolves all stepped back, almost trotting on Chen Xing and Xiang Shu several times. While Che Lufeng dodged, he also loosed arrows, but he still couldn't do anything to this colossal beast. He roared, is he still not awake? You have nowhere to go, the grey wolf bellowed. You swore on Father's name that you and I would live and die together, until the day the divine land itself crumbles. The grey wolf bit the white deer, pressing it down into the snow. Bright blood exploded from the white deer, creating a pool of blood on the snow of Karasha. Xiao Shan's eyes widened, his pupils contracting, before he finally let out a last-ditch shout. In that instant, a gust of energy swept out from Xiao Shan's body, a crash that shot straight for the heavens. Xiao Shan floated into the air, his entire body shining with a blinding light, just like when Xiang Shu took the form of the protector martial god. He called up wild lightning that filled the sky, standing there like a lightning deity of the heavens, overturning a bottle of lightning that had been stored in the cloud layers for thousands, or even tens of thousands of years, letting it all rain down at once. What differentiated him from Xiang Shu was that Xiao Shan was not using the power of the heart lamp, but rather using his own body to draw the lightning to him. Lu Ying dash. Xiao Shan roared from within the wild lightning. A faint silhouette of a god actually appeared behind him. The grey wolf's body was instantly pulverized under the wild lightning, which struck all across the vast land of Karasha. Chongming roared angrily, "You will destroy the northern lands." "Stop!" Lu Ying called out, "Xiao Shan." Chongming finally couldn't hold back any longer, and blazing fire burst forth from his hands. The light gathered up, and he prepared to send it into the sky to shoot Xiao Shan down. Otherwise, if he kept going like this, under his indiscriminate attack, the grey wolf, the white deer, and even Chen Xing, Xiang Shu, and the other humans would all be ground to dust. But just as Chongming was about to send out that burst of sacred flame, the golden light on Chen Xing and Xiang Shu's body disappeared at the same time. Xiang Shu opened his eyes, Chen Xing's face reflected in his pupils. The moment that Chen Xing came back to himself, however, he immediately lifted his head to look towards the sky. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing seemed to come to a tacit, unspoken understanding. In an instant, both of them grabbed the other's hand. Xiang Shu borrowed that momentum and leapt into the air. His gilded white martial robe covered the sky. With a twitch of his right hand, the shield appeared, and he shoved it towards the heavens. There was a huge boom, as if the world had just been created, and countless strikes of lightning came striking down, only to be blocked by the shield. Xiang Shu waved the shield and flew into the sky. Like a martial god descending from the heavens, bright light burst out from him, dimly taking the shape of a coiling dragon. Chongming immediately pulled the sacred flame back, turning and flying towards the white deer lying in the snow. Lu Ying's body shrank as he took human form, and Chongming pressed one hand to Lu Ying's body, causing the wound at his neck to slowly heal. "He cannot kill it," Lu Ying said. "Only I can let Xiao Kun rest in peace." Zuyun's power, Chongming raised his head, replying tersely to Lu Ying. "You all have once again awakened it, and it was all heaven's will that made it thus." Lu Ying's eyes quickly widened. Under Xiao Shan's wild thunder, the peaks of Karasha seemed to respond, and the earth kept shaking. Beneath the coiling ridge, it was as if the sleeping soul of the dragon god had been startled awake and had let out an angered roar. At the same time, Xiang Shu used the shield to fend off Xiao Shan's wild lightning strikes, rushing over to him. With a clean swing of his shield, he struck down. With a dang, Xiao Shan's Kangshan Yuli flew out of his grasp. From within the mountains came a dragon's call. With that dragon's cry, from the grey wolf, the white deer, and Xiang Shu's bodies, 3 powerful waves of dragon energy released themselves and once again gathered. Kangshan Yuli, which represented the physical body, began to change, and an immense silhouette of a huge dragon manifested in the sky. Chen Xing caught Xiao Shan as he fell, only to freeze in that instant. He forgot all about the heart lamp as he raised his head to watch this scene. Time flowed, and the moment the dragon soul of Zuyun, one of the 2 great creation gods of the world, gathered together and took form, time seemed to come to a halt. The grey wolf put one paw on the ground, rising to its feet with great difficulty, only to collapse again. Xiang Shu lifted his head and looked towards the sky. "My children!" Zuyun's voice resounded through the world. Xiao Shan opened his eyes muzzily. "Father?" Lu Ying asked disbelievingly. He got to his feet and raised his head to look towards the sky. Fa, there. Xiao Kun turned back to his human form, struggling in the snow. Father. Xiang Shu murmured. Who are you? Zuyun's form seemed to cover the entirety of the region of Kurasha, coiling around this land at the end of the world. It opened its mouth at the vast land, and a flood of power burst out, rushing towards the grey wolf on the snow. In the blink of an eye, the devil god's blood vanished like smoke, dissipating with all of the resentment. The world was filled with glowing points of light that slowly rose, like fine snow that drifted from the earth below towards the sky above. Forget all of those struggles that have caused you pain and regret, Zuyun's loud voice resounded through the world. Within the vast sea of time, those are no more than tiny waves that vanish in an instant. Time is boundless. Zuyun's figure slowly faded. Xiang Shu, his martial robe flying about him, floated down. There is only immortality. Zuyun's silhouette completely vanished, before 9 strange sigils appeared as tattoos on Xiang Shu's arm, each of them flashing as they took form. They wrapped around his arm, from his wrist to his elbow, like a coiling dragon. Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu lifted his left hand and wrapped it around the tattoos on his left arm, and his martial robe vanished just like that. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing sprinted over, tightly hugging him. Che Lufeng put away his bow and arrow, letting out a tired sigh, but he merely stood in the distance, not coming over. Xiang Shu hugged Chen Xing, saying, You actually came searching all the way here, you actually came. What kind of words are these? Chen Xing pushed him aside, angry. Even if you ran to the ends of the world, I would also come find you. Xiang Shu hurried to explain. That's not what I meant. I just knew that you would come. And He turned his head and asked, even as he held Chen Xing's hand. Che Lufeng was already completely stunned, and he raised his head to look at the sky. Dragon, Che Lufeng said. That was a dragon. That came from my, Xiao Kun, Shulakong, and Xiao Shan's bodies, Lu Ying said, the last of the dragon power. It is the protection that Zuyun left in the world. Lu Ying walked towards Xiao Kun in the snow, who had already calmed down. Chen Xing and Xiang Shu separated as well, and they turned and walked over to Xiao Kun. Chongming also came, and everyone gathered around Xiao Kun's side. Xiao Kun's face was ashen white, and he lay there in the snow, his hair unbound. Purple-black blood seeped out from under his body, dyeing the white snow with a patch of pitch black. Xiao Shan, are you a little better? Come take a look at Xiao Kun, Lu Ying said. You haven't seen his human form yet. Xiao Shan's eyes had tears in them as he knelt down by Xiao Kun's side. You've grown up, Xiao Kun said gently, his eyes closed as he held Xiao Shan's hand. I had a very long dream. In the dream, I also saw you, a you who was a little older than you are now. You were a little youth, and we were on the Yuk Mountains, reuniting in a dream. Sorry, Xiao Shan. Xiao Shan stared at Xiao Kun fixedly. When you were a year old, Xiao Kun said slowly, I brought you back to Kurasha, and I imagine that you will forgive me for this. Though you are not my child, but, just once, could you call me Father? Xiao Shan whimpered. The corners of Xiao Kun's mouth lifted in a slight smile. I am sorry, Lu Ying, Xiao Kun said. Since in this life we will not be able to be together in both life and death, I can only go first. I will wait for you in the cycles of reincarnation. Lu Ying watched Xiao Kun quietly. I promise you, Lu Ying said warmly, just like how you and I vowed in front of Father, from now, until the end of time. Lu Ying pressed one hand on Xiao Kun's forehead, and Xiao Kun once again turned into the grey wolf, before he let off a faint glow and dissolved into countless points of light. They rose into the sky, returning to the divine vein. 1K later, in the midst of the snowy plains. Xiang Shu lowered his head to look at his own forearm, and Chen Xing reached a hand out to touch as well. Those 9 sigils had already disappeared, as if nothing had ever happened. Chongming said, in that last moment, though I'm not sure what exactly happened, my guess is that the grey wolf and the white deer more or less released the dragon power in their bodies and gave it all to you, where it melded with the dragon power in your body. Dragon power? Xiang Shu asked, finding this very out of the blue. And why exactly would I have dragon power? The corners of Chen Xing's mouth twitched as he glanced at Chongming, then at Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu frowned. Do you guys know something? Xiang Shu finally began to suspect something. In reality, from the day he had met Chen Xing, this suspicion had never stopped. Explain it to me clearly, right now, Xiang Shu said to Chen Xing, upon seeing that Chongming was not answering. How many more things have you not told me? Why did you find me to be your protector? Why would I have this so-called dragon power? And who exactly is this guy? Che Lukfeng stammered, you're a dragon. Xiang Shu himself was also lost in the fog of confusion. There were too many things to doubt on this journey, but for many of them, he couldn't get an answer. Chen Xing explained, this guy that's wearing very little is the Yao King, but we have no other relations. He owes me a wish, which is why he's been following us this entire time. Don't mind him at all, just pretend he doesn't exist. Chongming. Just as Chen Xing was conflicted, thinking about how to tell him everything without any reservations, Lu Ying and Xiao Shan walked out of Karasha, coming to stand in front of them. Don't ask anything, Shulakong, Lu Ying said. When the time is right, I will explain it to you. Xiang Shu's expression was one of confusion. Lu Ying continued, go back. I promise you, there will be an explanation for all of this in the end. In this coming period, Yuduo will help protect Karasha, at least, we won't have to worry about Shihai setting down a 10,000 spirits array here. How about you all? Xiang Shu, and who are you? Why do I feel like I've seen you before? Xiang Shu appraised Lu Ying, feeling as if he had known him before. Even the geography of this place seemed very familiar, but he really couldn't remember. Chen Xing said, how about let's talk more when we get back? Are we going back to Karakoram first? That's still a good few days away. Wait, Lu Ying. I suddenly thought of a place. Chen Xing remembered something that he had always overlooked. Perhaps using this kind of method would help lessen Xiang Shu's suspicion a little. Xiang Shu, I want to go with you to a place. Perhaps there, we can resolve some of these suspicions, between us. It just so happened that Lu Ying and Chongming were also there. There was no time better suited than now. Xiang Shu met Chen Xing's gaze for a moment, pondering, before he then met Che Lukfeng's gaze, which held a little fear. Xiang Shu nodded, saying, Anda. With that, he walked towards Che Lukfeng, wanting to pat his shoulder, or perhaps check if he had been injured. Che Lukfeng was clearly afraid of Xiang Shu, and he couldn't help taking a small half-step back. Xiang Shu sensed this minute movement, so he didn't move to touch him, instead ordering, you go take a trip back and pass these orders on to Shimoken. The enemy has already been dealt with, and you can move back to Chieli Chuan now. Che Lukfeng nodded, mounted his horse, and left. I believe you, Xiang Shu said to Chen Xing. Tell me, where are we going? Chen Xing hesitated for a moment, before saying, I must first explain the causes to you. Xiang Shu, in your body, there is the last power that the dragon god Zuyun has left. And after that ancient dragon god fell from the heavens, he turned into these Karasha mountains. Everyone raised their heads, looking towards Karasha that was once again shrouded in clouds. Sunlight shone through the cloud layer, scattering countless beams of golden rays, turning these mountains at the end of the world into a veritable fairy realm. Lu Ying explained, I and the Grey Wolf Yuan Kun are Yao of the northern lands. After Zuyun fell in the time before history, he bestowed the 2 portions of dragon energy he had left upon us. After that, the grey wolf and the white deer became the protectors of the dragon god's grave in Karasha. When Zuyun opened his eyes, it was day, and when he closed them, it was night, so the grey wolf protects the bright day, and the white deer protects the long night. Later, me and mine fell prey to the corruption of Shihai's devil god blood, Liu Ying continued. The grey wolf was not fully refined. Perhaps that little bit of dragon energy helped it to guard its innermost heart, or perhaps it was unable to let go of its obsession, hoping to find dragon power to heal me. You had the same kind of dragon energy in your body as us, so you became its prey. For causing you all this trouble, I am very sorry. All right, I know this now, but my mother is Xiang Yuyan, Xiang Shu said, and my father is Shuluwen. They are both mortals, so how did the dragon power come into my body? Chongming suddenly smiled, and he walked to one side, thinking, I'd like to see how you're going to explain this one. Your mother was not a mortal, Chen Xing said. She was also a protector martial god. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing said, she never told you before, right? My guess is that she may have forgotten, because Kajera stole away a portion of her memories. She then escaped to this place, married your father, and gave birth to you. Xiang Shu was already a little confused, and he asked, but what does this have to do with me and the dragon power? Xiao Shan said, because you're the Dinghai pearl. Xiang Shu exclaimed, what? And what is the Dinghai pearl? I'm what? No, Chen Xing immediately said. That's not it, you're no longer the Dinghai pearl now. Liu Ying interjected, Xiao Shan, don't add more confusion. Chen Xing walked to one of the horses, thought deeply for a moment, before he untied its reins, saying, as for many of the details concerning it, I am also not clear, but perhaps it can give us some answers. Perhaps it'll be even clearer using this kind of method to explain to you. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing patted the horse's head, and Xiang Shu looked at it oddly, saying, it? Chen Xing nodded and released the reins. Xiao Shan asked curiously, does this horse also know how to speak? Chen Xing lost it? Of course it doesn't know how. Does it look like it's become an immortal? After that horse's reins were loosened, it hesitated for a moment before turning and racing into the snowy plains in a different direction. Follow it, go, Chen Xing said, before he mounted another horse, reaching out a hand to Xiang Shu. Xiang Shu got on, sitting behind Chen Xing, wrapping his arms around his waist as he shook the reins once. Liu Ying took the form of the white deer, and Xiao Shan climbed on its back, while Chongming turned into a phoenix. Everyone followed the old horse that knew the way, galloping towards the end of the snowy plains. Xiang Shu said to Chen Xing in front of him, my mother was the protector martial god, and to hide from Kajera, she came to Saibai. And because of a series of coincidences, I gained dragon power, is it like this? It can be explained like that, Chen Xing said. But don't mind where your dragon power came from, because this is something that is very complicated to connect to everything else. As for what happened in the beginning with your mother, I haven't figured it out fully either, though. Xiang Shu, your temper seems to be very good this time. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing smiled as he said, if this was as usual, then you would shout at me and even beat me up, making me explain things clearly faster. You said before, what you've always hated most is being lied to. Xiang Shu questioned, when did I ever lift a hand to you? Yes, I hate being lied to, but I know that some words that you choose not to say are because you are considerate of me. Chen Xing replied dejectedly, yes, I'm afraid that if you learn of it all at once, you'll be a little unable to bear it. Xiang Shu added, just like how I feel when I see Che Lufeng being afraid of me. Chen Xing said, you're too strong, and that makes people afraid sometimes. You're not afraid, Xiang Shu responded solemnly. Chen Xing said, "Stop thinking about it. Perhaps we will very quickly find the answer, but no matter what the outcome is, you must promise me that you will not make things more difficult for yourself." The snow had begun to fall again. As they galloped along, the horse had already brought them more than 10 li away from Karasha, heading towards the end of the mountain range to the east. "So," Xiang Shu suddenly asked, after remaining silent for a long time. "Coming to Xiangyang to find me was also because I had the dragon power?" "No," Chen Xing said, immediately negating Xiang Shu's guess. "That definitely was not the reason. When I saw you, I didn't know that you had this dragon power at all. I didn't even know who you were, nor did I know that you were Xiang Yuyan's son, a descendant of the Xiang family." This explanation was one that Xiang Shu could take. After all, in his jumbled memories, instinct made him trust Chen Xing. He once again sank into deep thought. "Let me take a look at your hand." Chen Xing turned his head, lifting up Xiang Shu's sleeve around the arm that he was using to hold the reins, revealing his powerful forearm. His fingers rubbed from Xiang Shu's wrist all the way up to the crook of his elbow. That line of markings that looked like tattoos appeared very faintly. Those were the exact same 9 sigils along the Akala blade. Chen Xing felt a sense of foreshadowing. Perhaps the dragon god was using this kind of method to hand the Akala blade over to them. But how were these 9 sigils supposed to be used? Xiang Shu felt a little itchy from Chen Xing's touch, and he said, "And what do these mean?" Chen Xing explained. That demonic spear that had been stolen by Wang Zi was originally the family heirloom of the Xiang family. This was something that Xiang Shu had long since understood, and Chen Xing and Xian and the rest had also discussed it countless times, but regarding the Akala blade, suddenly another question popped up. "Since you didn't know my mother was Xiang Yuyan," Xiang Shu said, "then logically speaking, you shouldn't have handed the Akala blade over to me, isn't that right?" When Xiang Shu got to this point in his thoughts, a rare suspicious expression appeared on his face, as if he had been lied to. But he still trusted Chen Xing's morals and waited for him to explain. When Chen Xing heard these words, his heart thumped once, and he hurried to defend himself. "That's not it. At first, I didn't know that you were from the Xiang clan, and I was not necessarily trying to find Xiang Yuyan's son to inherit this divine weapon. It just so turned out that the protector was you, so I wanted to give it a try. If it wasn't you, then perhaps someone else would have been able to use the Akala blade as well. What am I saying?" Even Chen Xing himself was a little mixed up now. He keenly sensed some of Xiang Shu's emotions. He subconsciously hoped that Chen Xing had come to search for him because it was a product of their fated destinies, rather than because of some ulterior motive. But now Xiang Shu was even more doubtful, and his memories of the past seemed to become even less real. Some seemed to be things that had happened before, but when he thought about them closely, he couldn't match the timelines up. This multitude of things was too hard for him to organize in such a short time, but Chen Xing's words also seemed to make a lot of sense. All along this journey, Chen Xing had still brought along his bow and arrows, and when he wasn't busy with something or another, he would fire off some arrows at some moving objects. If the phoenix was flying alongside him, he would use wooden arrows with the tips cut off and use it as target practice. The phoenix naturally could not be hit by him. Every time the arrows flew towards it, it flew higher into the sky, and after a while would lower itself slightly, only for Chen Xing to fire another arrow at it. The phoenix was irritated by Chen Xing's actions, and he asked, "What exactly are you doing?" Chen Xing responded, "Practicing." Xiang Shu was also a little annoyed by Chen Xing. Ever since they had left Chang'an, no, even when they were still in Chang'an, he had dragged Xiang Shu in to teach him how to do archery on horseback. Every day, he would bring a bow with him and go everywhere to shoot arrows, and he was even more diligent than when Xiang Shu himself was learning. "Stop playing with it," Xiang Shu said. Chen Xing replied, "Then you come take the reins, and I'll sit behind you. Xiao Shan, practice with me for a bit." Xiao Shan wo at once, riding the white deer. The white deer was very light on its feet, and its speed was much faster than even the fastest galloping horses. Its hooves didn't even touch the ground as it bounded like the wind across the snowy field. It was truly the best target to practice on. After Chen Xing emptied the quiver, the white deer then took another loop around, bringing the arrows back for him. Since they weren't doing anything else on this journey anyways, archery became Chen Xing's only pleasure. It wasn't until the sky started to grow dark that the phoenix flew over, saying, "You're sure that it can bring us to some special place?" The horse leading the way in front stopped, looking left and right in the light snow. Xiao Shan said, "It looks like it's lost." The white deer added, "Where exactly are you all trying to go?" Chen Xing raised his eyes to look into the distance, only to see that that horse also seemed full of doubt as it turned and began to run in a different direction. Chen Xing, follow it for a little longer and see. He had always had a guess that this horse wanted to bring them to somewhere that Xiang Yuan had once gone, but what if that wasn't the case? If it wasn't, then that would be a great embarrassment. With that, Xiang Shu turned the horse around. The two confused people, with a confused horse that had already lost its way, headed into the depths of the snowy fields. "I need a bit of time to organize things in my head," Xiang Shu said in the end. "How about let's head back to Chieli Chuan first ba, why are we following it?" Chen Xing said, "Let's go for a little longer, and if there's no result by the time the sun sets, we'll head back." That horse had come to the end of Karasha. The constellations rose, the pole star shone with light up in the night sky, and the handle of the dipper pointed towards a location on the ground. The snow had stopped, and the horse slowed on the end of those desolate plains, where there was no life, no trees, no mountains, no lakes. On the vast, flat plains traversed by a lone horse, within the wilderness, there stood a strange stone tower. Chen Xing immediately began to shout loudly, and he and Xiang Shu dismounted, running to the stone tower. This was a set of ruins that was even more ancient than those at Karakoram and on the shores of Lake Hong, where the artifacts had been stored. How had it appeared in this place? There were no traces of human habitation all around, and even the appearance of animals was very rare. The stone tower had weathered the wind and snow for many years, and it stood quietly on the frozen ground, as if it had been there for thousands of years. End chapter. Dinghai Fusheng Records. Chapter 111. Memories. Lu Ying transformed into his human form and arrived in front of the stone tower together with Chongming. "This kind of tower is called Xingluo," Lu Ying faintly said, "and similar to the earth veins below the ground, these Xingluo towers correspond to the heaven veins. It was many years ago when Xuan Yuanxi ordered the human race's master craftsmen to build them based on the corresponding positions of the stars on the ground. In ancient times, magical artifacts were put inside each tower in order to draw in the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, which would irradiate the earth with the force of life. It would also bless and protect the human world with good weather, as well as give people plentiful, abundant harvest of all kinds." Ah! Chen Xing had never heard of this before. Lu Ying had really lived for a long, long time. He was just like a living ancient book. Chongming let out an N before saying, "There were a total of 108 Xingluo towers in the divine land. It was the greed of you humans that had caused a fight over the 108 magical artifacts inside the towers hundreds of years ago, and the Xingluo towers have ceased functioning properly ever since." After thinking for a moment, Lu Ying said, "For example, the yin-yang mirrors, the zheng drum, and so on, are all ancient magical artifacts that were once stored inside the Xingluo towers. Afterward, they were all destroyed by the flames of war caused by the infighting between you humans. Adding in the fact that a wide area would also get affected with each destroyed tower, nowadays, they are already unable to function as before," Chongming added. "Oi, oi," Chen Xing said in full sincerity, "that's enough. Stop insinuating, you humans. I know we're in the wrong, okay. After a moment of thought, Chen Xing continued, later on, because of their unique capability of drawing the heaven veins in, exorcists used them to create defensive walls. I understand. Xiang Shu asked, there's a magical artifact inside? Open it up and take a look. Chen Xing said, here I go ba. Chen Xing, replicating the way that he had opened the other stone tower, pressed his hands on the door as he tried to draw in the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to inject into the engraved pattern. No effect. Lu Ying said after carefully examining it for a moment, look at the pattern on it. This Xingluo tower, which clearly had already been repaired before, had a dragon-shaped pattern winding around its body. Chongming said, use a different approach. Try to employ the dragon power on Shulakong's body. Xiang Shu rolled up his sleeve before attempting to press his hand on the tower. However, since he didn't know how to utilize his dragon power, Chen Xing activated the heart lamp and, holding Xiang Shu's hand, assisted him in making use of his mana. At this moment, the tattoo on Xiang Shu's right arm started to glow brightly, character by character. Under the heart lamp's guidance, the stirred-up dragon power was thus injected into the tower. A loud rumble rang out, and the stone tower was wide open. Layers upon layers of bricks whirled around as they distanced themselves away. Everyone simultaneously froze when they saw the newly revealed altar in the center. There was no magical artifact on the altar, in its place was instead a skeleton of a man who was sitting cross-legged with his long hair scattered loose. Perching on the lihan flower he held in his hand was a tiny glowing butterfly. Chen Xing cried out in surprise. Lu Ying, who knew what had happened with just a glance, raised his hand and lit up the light of dreams, which spread all around to form a barrier. Taking a flight out of the flower, that butterfly flapped its bright wings and fluttered about. Chen Xing reached out his hand to catch it, but the butterfly avoided him. Xiao Shan and Chongming also did the same, yet the butterfly just kept circling around with no desire to land. Until finally, Xiang Shu subconsciously stretched out his hand. The butterfly landed between Xiang Shu's fingers. Lu Ying commanded the light to gather toward the butterfly with a turn of his hand, causing the butterfly to transform into light motes that scattered after letting out a soft sound. Immediately afterward, the world around them changed its appearance to a boundless sea of flowers bathed in sunshine. You've come at last, Yuyin, a voice sounded. Chen Xing had heard this voice before. At the Xiang family's place in Kuiji. Inside the memory left behind by Xiang Yuyin. The skeleton inside the stone tower actually returned to his former appearance following that, turning back into a refined old man dressed in a Han robe that came down from the altar. Chen Xing immediately took a step back, but Xiang Shu held him by the hand. It's a dream of a departing soul, Chongming said, no need to be nervous. Lu Ying nodded. Yes, it's a memory left behind by the skeleton while he was alive for the later generations. Chen Xing, recognizing the man's features, said in a trembling voice, Zhonglu. Zhonglu. Xiang Shu frowned, he only felt as if this name was extremely familiar. Zhongliu's appearance was not of his young self that had been seen in Xiang Yuyin's memory. In this memory, he had shockingly turned very, very old, appearing to already have one foot in the grave as his life was nearing its end. He was unable to see any of the people currently there. He walked down the altar step by step, but nevertheless still looked as steady as before. I guess that after you arrived 300 years in the future, you may no longer remember the agreement that we had made at the beginning, Zhonglu mused as he stroked his beard. Therefore, I'm leaving this memory behind before I die in the hopes that it can solve your confusion. You have the Dinghai pearl, after all. The chance brought by fate might even be able to open your way to this Xingluo tower. Otherwise. Zhonglu turned around and sighed as his gaze lingered on the far end of the intoxicatingly beautiful spring field. As you had once said, just let all of these be buried deep in the ground ba. So, where do I start na? Zhonglu turned back, this time facing Xiao Shan, and passed through his body. Under everyone's watchful eyes, he faced the sky as he flicked his sleeve and said, "Yuyin, you perhaps already have no recollection as to why we had set down this path in the first place. In that case, let us start from the very beginning. The field of blooming flowers, its appearance changing once more, suddenly morphed into Chang'an City's grand scenery during the Han Dynasty. During the Zheng era, a Fangshi named Wang Hai arrived before His Majesty, Zhang Lu said in a low voice, and triggered a great upheaval that affected all levels of society not long after that. It was only 37 years after Wei Qing's expedition to Longcheng. When Lu Che ordered a thorough investigation of Chang'an's strange and unnatural phenomena, which eventually led to exorcists massacring one another, Zhang Lu continued. In the end, Crown Prince Lu Ju died amidst this turmoil of witchcraft, and Empress Wei committed suicide. There was also infighting among colleagues within the exorcism department, with survivors not even reaching around a tenth. We were totally scattered ever since. Chen Xing's breath hitched. Zhang Lu sighed before passing through him and Xiang Shu as he continued, this Wang Hai, who had incited that witchcraft disaster, took over the new exorcism department. After the chaos finally subsided, I had no better option but to escape from Chang'an while taking some magical artifacts along with me. After that, I tried to investigate Wang Hai's origins in many ways, and unexpectedly learned a shocking secret. The scenery around them transformed again, this time to a gruesome battlefield painted with blood and a river of corpses. It has already been more than 500 years since the Chu-Han contention where Jiaozhou and the Xiang family were vying for control of the Central Plains. People say that the divine land, long united, must divide, and long divided, must unite. Wars and massacres are bound to be born in this land every 100 or perhaps some 100 years. Humanity's craving to be against one another is endless and knows no bounds, even those of the same tribe show absolutely no mercy when fighting each other. Like the giant cycle of reincarnation where everything that happens can be traced back to the source, we can trace this back to the Qin dynasty, to the Warring States period when 7 states contended for supremacy, or even all the way back to the Battle of Muye when a group of immortals killed each other. The bloodshed never ended. It's like there is a curse that always coexists with the divine land since time immemorial. Are we all born with merciless blood similar to those of wild beasts flowing inside our bodies? No, perhaps what human beings do is even crueler than wild beasts and yaos. When all is said and done, yaos and beasts will stop their bloodbath after getting what they need to survive, Zhang Lu unhurriedly said. After years and years of investigation, I finally found where the thing now engraved in our bones originated from. This is a curse of a devil god that permeated the earth with his torso, blood, and even his Hun and Po after a great war happened in the distant past. Zhang Lu continued. Shu, Chen Xing murmured. The name of this devil god is Chu, Zhang Lu said. The blood left by the deity of war has long turned into a part of us that can't be discarded. Even exorcists who claim to be able to pry into the heavenly Dao and harness magical power are incapable of escaping its influence. Generations after generations have caused the devil god's blood to become deeply rooted and nourished the world with its innate nature to kill, which resulted in people harboring the mutual urge to frame, betray, and contain malice, envy, hatred, fury, enmity, the list goes on and on. Zhang Lu, lowering his voice, then continued, at that time, after Xuanyuan Shi had dismembered devil god Shu's corpse, he buried parts of his body in 7 places in the divine land. This, however, has instead turned him into the real deity manipulating the earth through the ages. His blood, the one that caused us to kill each other, condenses resentment that won't disperse for a long, long time. His Hun and Po look everywhere for a suitable vessel to reincarnate into, transforming into Mara that will descend to earth each time he reincarnates every 1,000 years. The exorcists only know that they have to exorcise devils, but they never know why this devil was born in the first place, but the whole truth is clear now, devils are the resentment Chu left behind in the world. Unfortunately, we discovered it too late, and no matter what we do now, we are incapable of completely purify the devil god's blood. And so, you finally thought of an idea, Chen Xing whispered. If we are to thoroughly eliminate the devil god's blood, let alone Mara, that has penetrated millions upon millions of mortal bodies in the world for several thousand years and will continue to do so for several millennia to come, Zhang Lu said, unperturbed, how difficult will that be? But then, I thought of the one and only possible way. Legend has it that when the huge dragon Zuyun's life came to an end, it fell to Mount Karasha together with its dragon pearl, which gave me an idea, that if we could use the Dinghai pearl to return to the Battle of Bonkan 3,000 years ago and activate the 10,000 spirits array using the boundless spiritual chi of heaven and earth to completely eradicate Shu's body and burn away his devil blood, only then would the human world achieve a long-lasting peace. However, to completely eradicate the deity of war, Zhang Lu added, I would need both the divine weapon that Akala had created for the human race, as well as the Xiang family who inherits and is able to control the divine sword's power. Because of that, after looking for the Dinghai pearl, I went to find you, Yuyin. More than 100 years have passed, and during this period, the exorcism department was like a prairie after getting burned by a wildfire, glowing with new life. At that time, Wang Hai had already become the new great exorcist, continued Zhang Lu. Furthermore, he was also inciting the Han and Hu exorcists to oppose one another as to generate more resentment in hopes for Chu to be reborn. Xiang Shu slightly tightened his grasp on Chen Xing. As 10 fingers interlocking one another, Chen Xing only felt that Xiang Shu's palm was full of sweat. Zhang Lu flicked his sleeves. Thus, we used the Dinghai pearl to collect in all of the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. There have been no more exorcists ever since, it's the silence of all magic. When you and I arrived in front of Yuk, we laid down the timeless tide array and planned to bring the Dinghai pearl back to 3,000 years ago. And then, with one motion from Zhang Lu, the surrounding scenery distorted into the mirage realm inside the veil of light of Mount Longmen's Yuk where everybody present now stood on the Taiji wheel. Xiang Yuyan slowly walked to the yin side of the wheel, while Zhang Lu moved to the yang side. The two stopped on both ends of the Taiji wheel. Xiang Yuyan's chest moved up and down as she said in a low voice, Lu Ji. I have one more thing to say. Zhang Lu smiled while raising his eyebrows. Xiang Yuyan said, after we leave, we won't be able to return. Zhang Lu nodded. You're not wrong. We will have to stay 3,000 years in the past. Xiang Yuyan mused silently for a moment before suddenly saying, it's just, along the way, I always have this thought. Lu Ji. What we are about to do, Xiang Yuyan murmured, is it really the right thing? Zhang Lu was stunned. Why do you say that? Zhang Lu frowned. Xiang Yuyan, eliminating the devil god and purifying all of his blood in the world so the earth no longer has them, to rid humans of the worst evil in their hearts. Maybe. I always wonder, what kind of place would that be if there was no evil in this world? The dense fog started to spread around the mirage realm and gradually turned into resentment. As the world changed abruptly, that abundant resentment converged toward the center of the Taiji wheel. People of ancient times carried with them the genuine and benevolent nature from the time when Nuwa created man. Wang Zi's voice suddenly echoed inside the mirage realm. But have you two ever thought that it was my lord who had added this nature inside humans in order to let the world become more powerful? Wang Hai. Zhang Lu said in a heavy tone. Xiang Yuyan suddenly raised her head and looked at Wang Hai. Yuyan, Wang Zi said in a clear voice, you have done well. It is thanks to you who have brought me to this place. No, Xiang Yuyan sternly said, when did you follow me? I didn't betray you, Lu Ji. Wang Zi's voice turned dark. The silence of all magic came one night and caused the Chang'an exorcism department to thoroughly fall apart. I have waited for hundreds of years, originally thinking that you, Zhang Lu, would one day come and issue a written challenge to me. Unexpectedly, I narrowly missed the golden opportunity. Zhang Lu replied no more. With a flick of his sleeve, he coldly said, as this fight cannot be avoided, please instruct me. Wang Zi released an overflowing amount of resentment while Zhang Lu activated the Dinghai pearl, causing mountains to crumble in an instant as an earth-shattering explosion occurred inside the Mirage realm. You were influenced by Wang Hai's resentment. Zhang Lu flicked his sleeve again, causing their surroundings to return to its original scene of the sea of flowers on the prairie, and continued to explain, I can't blame you, because it was I who was careless and underestimated enemy. In order to contain your Xiang family, Wang Hai used his great exorcist's identity to deceive your paternal grandmother into making you take a drop of the devil god's blood when you were young. He didn't trigger it in advance only because he didn't want me to arouse my vigilance. Because the Akala blade is, in the end, the only divine weapon that can restrain Shu, explained Zhang Lu. Wang Hai lacks the power to take away the Akala blade, so he could only use the devil god's blood to monitor you and influence you. Inside the timeless tide array, you attacked me. The timeless tide array was destroyed at that time, not even working a tenth of its full capability. Because you attacked me without warning under Wang Hai's control, I was left with no choice but to activate the Dinghai pearl. After the timeless tide array started to operate, I sealed the Dinghai pearl inside your body to help you resist the erosion caused by the devil god's blood, while simultaneously bringing you out of the current world. Fortunately, I have already sealed the Akala blade inside the yin-yang mirrors. Even if the said magical artifact were to be snatched by Wang Hai, he wouldn't be able to damage the Akala blade. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing was totally out of words and just looked as Zhang Lu flicked his sleeve one more time to reveal the final scene. Hurricanes whirled all over the place as the ancient tidal array collapsed. Zhang Lu grasped Xiang Yuyan's hand, but as they were about to be drawn inside the hurricane and leave the world, Wang Zi raised the resentment-filled Luahun bell. A dang sound thus echoed. Lu Ji. Xiang Yuyan's soul, the one which stored her memories, was immediately pulled out and put inside the Luahun bell. Her pupils slightly dilated as she subconsciously let go of Zhang Liu's hand. Zhang Lu, realizing that Xiang Yuyan had already lost her memories, immediately used the secret sound-transmitting art to say one final word to her. Karash's Zingluo Tower. When she turned her head, Zhang Lu had already been sucked inside the tide of time. Not a moment later, Xiang Yuyan too disappeared. That ancient tidal array brought me to more than 200 years in the future, Zhang Lu stated. This is the only way to escape from Wang Hai's surveillance, as he wouldn't have known where we are. We could be in 100 or 1000 or even 10,000 years in between. As long as we are in a different period than him, it would be like finding a needle in a haystack, as there would be no way for him to find us. However, you and I also lost contact with each other amidst that tide of time. Zhang Lu revoked the last scenery and went back to sit down before the altar. He looked up, smiling helplessly as he said, although, according to my conjecture, the gap shouldn't have been too long. I inquired after Wang Hai again after arriving in this world and found that he had also disappeared. Perhaps, the silence of all magic also restricted his actions and handicapped him in many ways. But the world after losing all of its magic also seemed to have changed into something different. There are no more exorcists, and also no more yaos. During the several months I spent traveling north to Karasha, I learned that I was currently in the first year of Yongkang. Since then, the human world has gone through numerous chaos of war and has now regained its prosperity. The borders between tribes shifted and are now thriving, while common people live and work in peace with an abundance of food. I will just wait for you to arrive, for us to rendezvous. Although from the moment the ancient tidal array was launched, you have forgotten about the past matters because of the Luahun bell, you must have still remembered what I said about Karash's Zingluo Tower. But I, unfortunately, still forgot about one thing. I've already lived in this world for more than 200 years before this. Now with all of the magic gone, I am no longer capable of absorbing the spiritual chi of heaven and earth to prolong my life. Furthermore, I have to rely on the Dinghai pearl that you hold to release the said chi. I really am stuck in a trap of my own making. Zhang Lu shook his head and smiled, full of regrets. In just a short period of a year, after a cycle of 4 seasons, my body has aged at a rapid speed. Lu Ji may not be able to wait for you, Yuyan. Zhang Lu looked up. While his hair had turned all white and his complexion had grown old, his bright eyes were still as clear as a child's. People will one day die, there is nothing to fear. I should not resent my death, but unfortunately, I still have a lingering obsession. I don't know why, but in these final days, Lu Ji suddenly recalled what you had said before. Zhang Liu's eyes contained a perplexed expression. Is what we did really the right thing? All right, that's it. Zhang Lu got up. I originally wanted to thank you for your hard work, because after learning all of this, you will have to shoulder this heavy responsibility alone, to retrieve the yin-yang mirror, take out the Akala blade, then use the power of the Dinghai pearl inside your body to go back to 3,000 years ago to finally complete our unfinished business. Now, everything is up to you. Zhang Lu slowly murmured as he walked back to the altar. During this year, Lu Ji has occasionally thought that maybe, you were right after all. That being the case, since this is really handing the fate of the divine land to one person, smiling, Zhang Lu said, how they wish to do it, and what path will the divine land follow then on, who could be blamed for it any? One by one, the stones led themselves. The markings outside the tower began to move closer to each other, reassembling into its complete dragon pattern. As the bright light around them dimmed, the world once again resumed its original appearance, a desolate prairie with ice and snow extending across thousands of li. In the final moments, the petals of the withered Lihan flower held by Zhang Liu's skeleton drifted away and finally scattered in the wind. The period of hundreds of years, the previous life, the current life, the past, as well as the future, everything in this place was like neglected remnants hurriedly carried away by time. Still, cold wind blew across the frozen prairie, carrying the air that remained unchanged throughout the ages. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing gently tugged Xiang Shu's hand. Xiang Shu looked Chen Xing in the eyes with a gaze showing both bewilderment and sorrow. She, according to the custom of the Tile people, she got a sky burial. A Shishan later, Xiang Shu, his voice containing a hint of total confusion, asked on their way back, then, where is this Dinghai pearl? Xiang Shu, Chen Xing said, are you ready to listen to my explanation? However, Xiang Shu didn't seem to have heard Chen Xing's words. Knowing that his mother was an ancient person from 300 years in the past was truly too much of a shock for him. Chen Xing still hadn't explained why he held the dragon power in his body, but Xiang Shu had already forgotten to ask about the matter. I am the Dinghai pearl, Xiang Shu stated. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing said. Listen to my explanation. I am the Dinghai pearl. Xiang Shu said. Xiao Shan has already spoken the truth. Chen Xing was suddenly left speechless. Xiao Shan had indeed spoken out of turn and had once said, you are the Dinghai pearl. Xiang Shu actually remembered this all along. So, Chen Xing had no alternative but to say, yes, you are the Dinghai pearl, or it can be said that you used to be. However, it has since been separated from your body and been destroyed. That's why I have the dragon power. Xiang Shu, at long last, understood. Chen Xing could only say, yes. I'm not a human. Xiang Shu was at a loss. I'm not a human? I'm not a tile, nor am I a Han. No, Chen Xing refuted. You are. Chen Xing had already prepared himself for Xiang Shu's further inquiries, but who would have thought that Xiang Shu didn't ask about this matter at all? What hit him harder was actually his identity. This was completely beyond Chen Xing's expectations. But if one were to think about it again, this was indeed within reason. I'm a what? A human transformation of a magical artifact. Xiang Shu said in disbelief. My mother was a person from 300 years ago. Chen Xing nodded. What happened is. Yet Xiang Shu just raised his hand, motioning for him not to say more. He frowned at Chen Xing with a rare hint of panic in his eyes. Leave me alone for a moment, Xiang Shu then said. Chen Xing still wanted to say more, but Xiang Shu just left them and went to one side. Xiang Shu. Chen Xing opened his mouth, yet he didn't know how to ease his feelings. This matter hit him this hard? The first time. Wait, when did Xiang Shu learn of his own identity the first time around? When I was asleep. Chen Xing too was at a loss now. Leave him alone for a moment, Ba, Chongming said. Guowang often thinks about what exactly I am as well. Chen Xing looked at Xiang Shu's back, puzzled. He remembered that back when he was a child, when he became aware that there was the heart lamp inside his 307 po, he wasn't this perplexed. Ah! He simply thought oh and left it at that. Lu Ying smiled. If one day you found out that you were not you anymore, but simply the heart lamp that had absorbed the spiritual chi of heaven and earth, thus transforming into a human that experienced the 4 types of human emotions, how would you feel? Chen Xing, that. I might have a slightly complicated feeling, Ba. He gradually understood Xiang Shu's reaction. After waiting for a long time, Chen Xing approached Xiang Shu once the northern dipper rose at the far end of the horizon. When Chen Xing gently touched the back of his hand, Xiang Shu immediately turned around and looked back at him in confusion. Let's go. Xiang Shu said. Let's go, Ba, this place is too cold. Let's talk more when we get back. This place was nearing the northernmost part of the Divine Land. Seeing Chen Xing's lips had already frozen to the point that they were slightly blue, Xiang Shu realized that Chen Xing persisted, although with difficulty, purely to keep himself company. It's not bad, Chen Xing replied. With the phoenix by my side, it's not that cold. Are you feeling better? Xiang Shu nodded, and thus, everyone left Karasha and went back to Chieli Chuan. Xiang Shu said little to no words along the way, even less than usual. Chen Xing wanted to talk to him several times, but Xiang Shu was always immersed in his own thoughts, absent-minded. Chen Xing, knowing that at such times it was enough to stay by his side, had no better option but to continue practicing archery with Lu Ying. They passed through Karakoram on their journey back. The Hu people inside the city had already been evacuated, leaving only some tile warriors assigned by Shi Mokan to guard the Xingluo Tower. Chen Xing had originally wanted to take the White Tiger pennant away, but he decided to leave it on this place after thinking about it some more. Karakoram, the moment Lu Ying arrived, he looked at the war-ridden city wall and murmured. Back then, in order to look for Xiangyuan and the Dinghai pearls whereabouts, Shi Hai would come here every few years. After leaving the imperial palace, as Chen Xing surveyed into the distance, he concluded that the Tile people should have just recently been evacuated. He then said to Lu Ying, later on, was it also in this place where the Grey Wolf and Wang Zi fought hand to hand? Lu Ying nodded and replied, that year, when Shi Hai came and committed a large-scale massacre in the city to gather and refine his army of drought fiends, Xiao Kun also came to protect the common people here. He managed to repel Shi Hai, fought against the group of drought fiends, and finally saved Xiao Shan, but his body also got infected by the devil god's blood in the process. Xiang Shu was currently feeding the horse outside the city gate. After they finished, Chen Xing came out together with Lu Ying and asked, "Are you coming back to Chieli Chuan with us?" "In any case, there is nothing to do," Lu Ying said. "I'll go and take a look." "Ba. Throughout my whole life, I haven't been away from Karasha much." Xiang Shu was brushing the mane of that horse left behind by his mother when Chen Xing came to his side and put a hand on top of his. Xiang Shu glanced at him and said nothing. While Xiang Shu was silent all the time these days, it didn't look as if he was angry, it was more of that kind of mild, calm silence that seemed to say that he merely didn't want to speak. Move from the back of its shoulder downward, Xiang Shu suddenly said. He then let Chen Xing hold the comb and taught him how to brush the horse's fur properly. Chen Xing was well aware that Xiang Shu's mood at this time must have been very complicated. Lu Ying had also reminded him that he must not let Xiang Shu receive too much information in a short period of time, or else it would make him even more at a loss of what to do. Chen Xing was actually unaware when Xiang Shu had found out the truth the first time, as he had slept for no less than 3 months then. But this time, Chen Xing finally had the opportunity to accompany him and face it together with him. Chen Xing roughly understood Xiang Shu's mood after carefully pondering about it over the past few days. Back then, when Xiang Shu had first found out about the truth of his own life, he also must have been as bewildered as he was now. If he remembered correctly, Xiang Shu should have learned the full story during his fight with Wang Zi after he had passed through the Yuk and entered the Mirage realm. But along with the battle inside the yin-yang mirrors soon afterward, Chen Xing fell unconscious. According to Xian, after Xiang Shu had carried him back to Shaoyang, he took care of him for several days before leaving. It's just, in those few days, what was Xiang Shu thinking about when he looked at the sleeping me, totally unconscious, on the couch? Did he hold my hand as he told me a lot of things? It was a pity that the him at that time wasn't able to hear any of the words. Perhaps, this matter of him being a magical artifact also contributed to Xiang Shu's final decision to self-destruct in order to save Chen Xing and the common people of Divine Land. He must have been very helpless and totally confused at that time. Xiang Shu. With Chen Xing by his side, Xiang Shu, who seemed to have gradually accepted this fact, suddenly noticed that Chen Xing's eyes were a little red. Nothing, Chen Xing couldn't help but say. The moment I found you, I really didn't know you were. I know, Xiang Shu absent-mindedly replied. You've said it quite a few times. Chen Xing forced a laugh before saying, you. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing just looked at one another for a very long time. Chen Xing really wanted to ask him, what have you been thinking about these days? But in the end, he decided against it. He felt that he was the one who should be able to understand Xiang Shu, yet in truth, he failed to promptly understand nor comfort him. This actually made Chen Xing feel a bit ashamed of himself. Are they also coming to Chieli Chuan? Xiang Shu asked as he looked at Chongming and Lu Ying. Seeing Chen Xing nod, Xiang Shu turned over and got on his horse before saying, let's go. As they went south after leaving Karakoram, a white dust gale blew over. When the ice and snow finally melted, the prairie once again wonderfully resumed its autumn scenery, a sign that the autumn close festival was quickly approaching. On the other shore of the Zaraskal River, now the mirror image of a sapphire blue ribbon, was a vast plain bathed in the brilliant golden rays of the sunshine. Tumbleweed, blown over by the autumn wind, flitted across mountain ranges and into the river. Xiang Shu and Chen Xing led the horse across the suspension bridge. The past Chen Xing had seldom tried to guess Xiang Shu's heart, to the point that it could be said that such an idea had never occurred to him in the first place. However, he gradually began to think more and more about how Xiang Shu had managed during those days when he had been in a coma. What Xiang Shu cared about the most in his life, and how he had regarded himself for a long time until then. Thinking about these, Chen Xing felt that he had a lot of things he wished to say to him. Is my heart too big? When I found out that the heart lamp is inside my hun and po, I surprisingly didn't feel even the slightest bit of bafflement and just accepted the reality. So why did the heart lamp choose me? What is the heart lamp anyway? The matter turned more complicated the more he thought about it, causing Chen Xing to become confused. If one had knowledge of all kinds of matters from an early age, every one of those would turn into something that automatically became a natural part of life that they had no qualms about, which, in the end, made the said knowledge easy to accept, that kind of I am a han or I am a hu, because one must know oneself first before knowing the world. However, if everything was suddenly toppled over after said idea had long since been deeply rooted, it would certainly be unbearable. What Xiang Shu was thinking about right now must be in the end, am I a Han or a tile? Or even as far as am I a human or not? Arriving at this point, Chen Xing also began to ponder over the same question, am I a human or not? If you keep on practicing, Xiang Shu said, you can be up to par with a tile warrior soon. Chen Xing, who had been drawing the bow until his shoulder ached, put it away before smiling as he said, so apparently, I still have a little talent for martial arts ma. How about if compared to you any? Perhaps after practicing for another 100 years ba, replied Xiang Shu. Chen Xing wilted. Xiang Shu's shooting skills with a longbow was at the level of a flying swallow, he surely still wouldn't be able to catch up with Xiang Shu even after another 100 years of practice. Xiang Shu added, but compared to the other clansmen, you can last through 3 arrows if you try hard when competing in horseback archery. Really? Chen Xing laughed again, full of hope. Sometimes, I am just full of doubts. After pondering for a moment, Chen Xing couldn't help but say, could I actually be a magical artifact that has turned into a spirit too, what do you think? Xiang Shu. Chen Xing right now had roughly understood Xiang Shu's confusion. Xiang Shu didn't know what he was. Xiang Shu frowned. Focusing on Chen Xing, he then said, yes, you are the heart lamp. Chen Xing said, the heart lamp is also a magical artifact, just like how you are the Dinghai pearl. It has always accompanied me from the moment I was born. However, I feel that even if I was only a magical artifact that had somehow cultivated into a human being, it's also very good. In any case, I became a human being the moment I came and walked around this world, which is not bad at all. Xiang Shu halted his steps and just silently looked at Chen Xing with a gaze full of meaning. Chen Xing looked back and smiled. To tell you the truth, I originally also felt very puzzled as to why I would dream about Xiangyang, about being able to find you in that place. But over the past few days, I suddenly figured it out. Isn't it precisely because a magical artifact was trying to find another one of its kind? That being the case, we two are the only magical artifacts on Earth that have turned into human beings. Fortunately, there is you. It's truly great not to be alone. Xiang Shu suddenly felt that this interpretation was kind of funny. He could only climb onto the horse and said, let's go, don't think too much about it. No need to care about what one is. When Chen Xing heard these words, he knew that sure enough, this was the part Xiang Shu cared about the most. After pondering over what Chen Xing had said, it was as if everything suddenly became clear to Xiang Shu. He nodded and said, you're correct. I was born as a human when I came to this world. Very good. Chen Xing thus said, and so, there's really no need for you to keep mulling over this question, because you're not the only one between heaven and earth, there's another magical artifact to keep you company. Any? Of course. Chen Xing winked at Xiang Shu once more. I will keep this secret and won't say a word to your people. You can choose whether you want to tell them or not. Xiang Shu was so stunned that he couldn't help but laugh. Chieli Chuan had already appeared in the distance. This time, there was no burning flame of war, no camps in a jumbled mess, just like the day when Chen Xing had first arrived here. Chieli Chuan, under the Yin Mountains. The sky resembles an arched hut, covering the plain whole. The vast and blue sky, the boundless wilderness. When the winds blow, the grass bends low, as cattle and sheep will show. The herdsmen were currently preparing for another autumn close festival. Tents had already been set up, and Chieli Chuan, surrounded by the Yin mountain ranges on 3 sides, was like a paradise on earth. That ancient tree, which was full of golden-colored leaves, kept rustling in the wind. The Great Chanyu is back. Someone shouted at once. Great Chanyu. Inside Chieli Chuan, the Hu people came over to meet them one by one. Xiang Shu, however, just shook the reins of the horse, shouting Chia. as he changed the horse's direction and galloped to the royal tent with Chen Xing in tow. End chapter.